Let's go back to the new UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer hosting a meeting of dozens of European leaders at Blenheim Palace in England. Those are live pictures of him greeting those various leaders as they arrive for the meeting. Let's return to our correspondent Lewis Vaughan-Jones, who's there for us and is going to bring us more detail and more analysis.
Lauren, thank you very much. Yes, more and more leaders from right across Europe arriving. They have been for the last half an hour or so, walking up the red carpet, which is just behind me. They've been driving through this rather sweeping, dramatic courtyard in front of Blenheim Palace, here to be met, of course, by the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Now, this is a relatively new kind of summit, if you like keeping up to date with the various summits. There you've got your G7s, G20s, of course. We're used to those events. This one is called, as the big sign says, the European Political Community, only set up in the last couple of years at the behest of Emmanuel Macron, in response to the war in Ukraine, because this is about wider issues than just the European Union dealing with. It's security across the whole of Europe. And of course, the UK's role with the whole of Europe, as well as the European Union, very much in the spotlight, with the new Labour government in position, taking over from the Conservatives, who were the champions of Brexit, of course. So what does all this mean? What kind of opportunities are available today on the diplomatic front? Well, I'm very pleased now that we can speak to Lord Darrick, former diplomat, former ambassador to the US and former UK permanent representative to the European Union. Lord Darrick, thank you very much for coming on the programme. Good morning. So our James Landale, our diplomatic correspondent, described this as an opportunity for Sir Keir Starmer for diplomatic speed dating, was his phrase. What do you make of that, and what's your assessment of the use of a summit like this? What should we be looking at?
It's a good description by James. I think at least half of the time today is set aside for leaders to have bilaterals. And with 44, 45 of them there, that's quite a lot of action going on in the margins. And I think it's worth emphasising, this is an extraordinary opportunity for the new Prime Minister and for the UK. Just 2 weeks after the election, an opportunity to meet a lot of European leaders he won't have met yet, an opportunity to really put forward his ideas on this European reset. So the government is, I think, delighted that they have inherited this from the previous government. The timing is fantastic, and there'll be a lot of interesting discussions going on today.
Interesting, yeah, the timing is fantastic. The setting, the backdrop is pretty fantastic too.
This word
reset, right. This word reset that we will be hearing often now from the government throughout today. What's that actually mean in your eyes?
I think it's a piece of calibration, Lewis. I think that they don't want to give the impression that there is some revolutionary change going to happen in British relations with Europe, especially British relations with the European Union, where the ideas are all useful: the veterinary agreement, foreign policy and security coordination, the potential stuff on youth mobility, that kind of stuff. That's all useful stuff, but it's not a dramatic change in the level of UK-EU relations, nothing like rejoining the single market or joining the customs union. And then this meeting, which is primarily about Ukraine, of course, but it is an opportunity for the whole of the European family to meet together, is an opportunity for a wider reset of British relations with Europe, because, to be frank, there was some antipathy, some hostility in the previous government's line on Europe, particularly not Rishi Sunak, but some of his predecessors. So there'll be a new tone set today, which is valuable.
And let's focus just for a moment, if we can, on Ukraine, because events in America and the presidential race there will be, I'm sure, part of the discussions with the world leaders behind me here. Just talk us through that relationship, any potential change with a change in president in the US, and what that means for the leaders here when it comes to Ukraine.
Yeah, Ukraine has had a tough year. They had, the first year of the Ukraine war went well for them. Last year, was basically a war of attrition. Russia has had the initiative this year, has recaptured some territory, not nearly as much as they might have hoped, but they recaptured some territory. And it's only that decision taken by the US Congress to start resupply of American armaments to Ukraine that I think has stopped the Russians recapturing a lot more. But with the potential next US president, I mean, he hasn't won the election yet, Donald Trump, but he has a lead in the opinion polls, so far publicly committed to stopping US weapons sales to Ukraine, with his new vice president candidate, J.D. Vance, a hardliner on stopping weapons to Ukraine. These are tough times for Zelensky, and he'll be very worried about events in America and the trajectory of that election race. And he'll be looking to the best expression of solidarity he can get from Europe that is possible, and he'll hope for promises of Europe stepping up to do more in the future.
And just as you were talking there, Lord Darrach, just seeing on the screen more arrivals, as I said, 45 or so leaders from across Europe being driven up the splendid driveway here up to Blenheim Palace. They head inside for plenary sessions and for discussions, and we hope to hear from them a little later. Lord Darrach, thank you very much for your time and putting us in the frame, putting it in a bit of context for us. We appreciate that, and we appreciate your time. So just so you know, they will be having bilateral meetings, the leaders behind me, and then there'll be sessions on things like illegal migration, on things like Ukraine, and then we expect to hear from them when they speak to the press, and we're waiting to hear from Keir Starmer a little later this afternoon. Of course, we'll bring you what comes out of this summit a little later. Lauren.
Lewis, thank you very much indeed.